I just went to visit my parents, and they're older than me. My folks are at the age where any kind of technology, not interested. Anything. Could be a doorstop, tape dispenser. They don't want to know. They're not interested in learning. As soon as I get there, I pull into the driveway. My father runs out. You have to come look at the computer. Because I'm under 70, so that makes me tech support. I tell him, you use it 3 times a year. How bad can it be? And then I go upstairs. Oh, how long has smoke been coming out of the printer? What? My dad's main online activity is he and his retired friends email each other vacation photos in formats no one can open. No one has ever successfully viewed a single photo because they won't update. They're all running Windows 75. Nothing works anymore. And they get the notifications, so they think, it's a scam, it's the Russians. Delete, delete, delete. Now I'm looking at an email. Dad, I think this attachment is an 8-track. How did he do this? This is not... Yeah, he cracks me up. And I have to say, if you're a person who has parents who are senior citizens, next time you visit, have them drive you around a little bit. My father's lost all conception of consistent pressure on the gas pedal. I don't know if it's perhaps a torn plantaris. It could be a plantaris issue. Or... No more of this. What he does now is he floors it! And then he lets it all run out. And he floors it! His car looks like it's skipping down the street. I'm sitting next to him, my neck hurts. Getting seasick. We were on the highway. He slowed down so much, I thought he wanted me to get out. Is he gonna leave me here on the median? But he still does the classic dad move, though, if the traffic stops short. The dad hand to the passenger eye, ear, nose, and throat area, just smacking you right in the face. Still doing it to his grown son. Because the windshield, the seatbelt, these things won't save me. But his scrawny, 75-year-old arm, getting a little karate chop to the throat. It's not gonna work, and I'll tell you why. Because his reaction time is slow. It's a little off schedule. So whatever happened, he's not kicking in for quite a while, and then out of nowhere, hey, Dad, whoa! We're sitting on the couch, what are you doing? We're in home 15 minutes. He's like, oh. He's making me nervous because he just had a little fender bender. I think it was his fault. He hit a parked car. It was parked in his driveway. And it was my car. Watch the whole thing happen through the living room window. I heard him revving up in the garage. I'd never seen him drive that fast, just wha-bam! 8 feet, full speed, into the side of my car, and I ran. I said, oh, are you all right? And I couldn't believe I had to ask this. I said, didn't you see my car was there? And he got mad at me. My father said, well, your car's not usually there when I back out. I said, hey, Dad, let's not drive from memory. The world is changing. It's changing all the time. And my mother's worse, because my mother's shrinking. That's what happens to Italian people as we get older. We just keep getting smaller and smaller. I saw it happen. My grandparents, they turned into little Italian salt and pepper shakers. You can hold them. It's like a Disney movie. So my mother is shrinking, and she drives looking through the steering wheel. Like she's holding a hula hoop in her hands. That's not safe. The other drivers, they don't even know she's in there. They just see the haunted Honda drifting through traffic. So here's what I want to do. I want to get Mom one of those big wooden ship's wheels. You know, the ones with the knobs? And that way we can stick in the middle of the dash, and she can drive standing up like a pirate. Just put a parrot on her shoulder. Arr, I be going to the deli. Who's coming with me? It was good to visit with them, though. I forgot that my dad is one of the all-time great throat clearers. He sounds like he's got a big announcement coming up. A lot of ahem. We used to do it when we were kids. Oh, we'd hear my dad in the bathroom every morning tuning up. He'd like to start every morning with 20 minutes of this. Like you could tell he couldn't get under it, so he had to come at it from different angles. Like, we'd hear him, we think, what are you trying to knock loose at 8 o'clock in the morning? Do you swallow a pine cone overnight? My sister and I would laugh. My mother would yell at us, don't make fun of your father. And then she'd yell at him, Frank, stop it. He couldn't even defend himself yet. I wouldn't have laughed if I'd known it was hereditary. I got the gene. I got the gene.
Local man robs Wendy's with alligator. We're the alligator boys now.
And the lady be sitting on the bank, she be going, Mom, Mom,